And welcome back to another episode of the Investor Guys podcast. Bill, how you doing? Love that background.
Thank you, sir. It's, in Fort Worth, we have incredibly great ocean views. So
I'm liking it. You're going to go out on the boat right after this, right?
That's it. It's just, it's hard to get to from here, but I'm headed that way.
You know what? There are plenty of lakes in the DFW area,
Absolutely.
And that is a big summer thing. But I guess you said it was raining a lot, so it's probably not a good thing unless you're going to be fishing.
The lakes there's Benbrook Lake is about a mile from me, and they have closed it because of the water. And then Lake Worth, which is on the north end of Fort Worth, they closed because it's got so much water in it. They said they were afraid that if boats got out, the wake would end up flooding houses. So they closed the lake. I'm like,
real quick trivia, and you probably already know this. I used to spend a lot of time on the lake out by Rockwall because I've got some properties out by Rockwall. Do you know why it's called Rockwall? No? When the early settlers first got there and they started digging, they found a rock shelf that looked like that were rocks that were stacked. And they thought it was from a prehistoric tribe or something that had built a wall. And it turned out just to be a natural, geology feature, from the shale and from the clay and everything else. But it was called rock wall because they thought that a previous culture had built a rock wall and it had just gotten covered up over the centuries. So that's why they call Rockwall.
That's where our race team was located, was in Rockwall.
Or your what? Oh, your race team?
Yeah.
So, great area. I bought there probably about 15 years ago when a lot of it was still really new.
I've done stuff in Rockwall.
Yep, it's I like Rockwall. My preference though is Frisco. The house that I used to use for myself was up in Stonebridge, so one of my favorites. Little Elm is great as well.
Yeah.
So all those areas that we just mentioned, with the exception of maybe Rockwall, not a whole lot of rehabs. Frisco's fairly new area for most of the properties. Little Elm's fairly new, but Farmers Branch. I know you spend a lot of time there. Addison,
Farmers Branch right now.
Okay, I know you look a lot in Addison and some of those other areas. Rehabs, and last show we were talking about line items for rehabs. So let's continue with that because we got as far as I think the foundation and the roof. We mentioned some of the flooring, but let's talk about some of the other big things if you have to do them, and maybe let's talk about some shortcuts as well.
Okay. Well, obviously, one likely thing you're going to have to do on most rehabs is you're going to have to paint. That's going to be a big expenditure. And so I'm always looking at what my price per foot comes out to. Now, I'm going to give you a formula that I use on everything. And when I take folks out and we're looking at houses, we'll walk through a property, and in 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, I'll go, yeah, this looks like about a $43,000 to $45,000 rehab. And they're like, wow, you just kind of throwing a number out there. I'm like, well, yeah, about 10,000 houses that I've bid on. Yeah. So I've got a pretty good idea what this is going to run. And so then they'll go back and take the spreadsheet that I give them. And I know you do that with your students as well, provide them some spreadsheets, and they'll go back and fill in the spreadsheet and come back and they'll go, wow, you said 42 to 45 or 43 to 45. It's 44,897. And I'm like, yeah, okay, good. I'm getting older in life, so I'm off a little there. And so
now you have to twist those numbers in your brain to make up for the extra cost of everything. So literally, if you've got OSB, you're 10 times more on your cost now. So
yeah. So they're like, how do you do that? And they're like, well, one thing is, every time that I'm looking at a line item, so like, let's use this for paint. If I don't have a paint contractor that I have a great relationship with, I'm going to get a bid, and I'm going to get at least 3 bids, and then I'm going to decide who I want to go with. And then after the house is done, I'm going to go, okay, when I think about the painter, did I think they do a great job? Did I think that not only did I get a great job, but am I happy with the price? And then I'm going to take whatever that final price was, and I'm going to divide it by the total square footage of the house. So let's just say that it was $2,500 and it was 1,000 square foot house, then I can know that this painter is going to average $2.50 a square foot based on the square footage. That is not how painters calculate it. That's how we calculate it. And what that allows me to do is know when I'm walking into a property, I can look down at the listing and go, oh, this is a 3,000 square foot house. If that guy paints, it's going to be $7,500. Don't know if I want to do that or not. You know, or I've got that in my budget to be able to do that. And so all of these big line items, so roof, foundation's always going to be a one-off. I'll just kind of throw in $10,000 typically on a foundation rehab unless I know it's really bad. And then gives me a little leeway when I'm putting my budget together, but I'm always getting a specific bid on foundation. Roof, you can do very easily. It'll vary a little bit based on the pitch of the roof and whether it's 1 story, 2 story, but not dramatically. And paint, same kind, you can nail paint. And same thing with flooring, you're gonna be able to nail it. So same thing, your flooring people are always want to give you, if you're looking at tile, they're gonna do per foot. If you're looking at wood, they're gonna do per foot. Get the carpet and pad, they're gonna do per yard. I always go back, I don't care how they calculate it, I wanna use that formula. I wanna take, here's my flooring cost. So I've got wood in this room, I've got tile in the kitchen, I got tile in the bathrooms, and in the bedrooms, I've got carpet. And here's my total cost for this job by my square footage. Now I know that my flooring, and right now we're running about $375 around here per foot on flooring, and that's going up. I had a flooring contractor call me last week and he just said, want you to know, if you need anything, you need to get an order in right now. I'm buying as much as I can because they've already told us it's going up 15, 20% in the next 60 days. And that's just the start. And that's what happens when you live in a fascist country. Everything gets incredibly expensive and goes out. It's amazing how since Biden's taken office, everything's in shortage. Everything's in shortage. Really? Yeah, I don't think so. This is all BS. And the likelihood that you and I get these dollars back once we get the idiots gone, probably not going to happen. We're not going to get much of it back. That's business stuff.
That's why we need to pay attention to our line items and our budget and make sure we're dealing, by the number and looking apples to apples, oranges to oranges, and not apples to grapefruits and oranges to grapes.
You have to keep up with that just property to property, because if you end up doing, if you're a one at a timer and you're doing a property the first quarter of the year and then you don't do another property until summer, your costs are going to be different. And you need to be paying attention to that right up to the absolute minute. We just rewired the Farmers Branch property, just rewired it. And we were able to get the wiring purchased and we only had about a 10% increase over the last time we did it. But the guy at Home Depot, when we're picking up the wiring, and I just stopped by and had them loaded in the back of my car. He said, hey, be glad you got this. We will be out in another month. Not we're running low, the price is going to go up. We'll be out and it's going to be 2 or 3 months. And I'm just like, this is insane that everything on the planet is suddenly in shortage. Yeah, that's total US government. And if you're a real estate investor and you don't vote those people out, then shame on you. And if you don't make any money, then it's your fault. Because we got to get rid of these idiots and get them out. And they're incredibly smart and they're incredibly stupid at the same time. They're incredibly evil, in my opinion, doing what they're doing to our economy, because that hurts you and me. They do not care about you at all. If they put you out of business and make you dependent on them, that's what they want to do. As real estate investors, we have the most to gain with keeping those kind of people out of office going forward, so that we can still have a life and build our life and control our destiny the way that we want to. All right, so got the preaching there. So
that's okay. We're up on a break, and real quick to Bill's point, pay attention. to the strategies that you're using and pay attention to your cost and make sure that you're not getting priced out of the game. Here's the thing. Prices are going up. As long as we still have demand and as long as our line items are still correct and we're still making a profit, we're still making a profit. It sucks to be paying this much more for things, and it sucks to be having to wait this much longer. And the other thing is keep in mind, if you're doing something that's going to require something that's going to take longer to get, okay, that is going to affect your bottom line because you may have to hold this property an additional month, an additional 2 months. I have not seen it here yet, but I have seen it in other markets and heard of it. They're 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 months behind on certain things that they're trying to get. Kitchen cabinets right now, very, very hard to get. Lots of things are on backlog. You don't want to get into a flip that you're planning on doing 4 months and find out that you can't get the materials you want for 8. So keep all of this in mind when you get out there in this current market. This isn't something that we typically deal with, but keep it all in mind. And again, it has to work item by item, line by line, number by number. We'll be back in just a second. We got a break.
A lot of real estate training programs claim that they will make you a millionaire, but how many of them will guarantee it? The Millionaire Blueprint comes with a millionaire guarantee. I guarantee that if you use the strategies and you use the formulas that you learn in the Millionaire Blueprint, you will be a millionaire. I guarantee that with a double your money back guarantee. Whether you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest or absolutely nothing, it doesn't matter. I'm going to show you how to start investing and be a millionaire guaranteed. Now, I can't tell you all about it in this short amount of time, so go to the guaranteedmillionaireblueprint.com. That's the guaranteedmillionaireblueprint.com. Watch the videos there. Read about the guarantee. Read more about what we offer with the Millionaire Blueprint. Get signed up. I'll see you in Palm Beach.
Las Vegas isn't only a great city to visit, it's a great city to invest in. Bill and I both have been investing in the Vegas area for decades, and that's one of the reasons why we have our real estate buyers event in Las Vegas, Nevada. Check out the same strategies, the same types of properties, the resources that we're using here on the ground, the people that we're using here on the ground to get the same types of returns that we're getting here in Las Vegas. The Real Estate Buyers Event, that's realestatebuyersevent.com. Read more about this event, find out where we're going to be, including when we're going to be in Vegas next, and register. We'll see you soon. And we are back. And I know Bill already knows this, but real quick note for you guys, when you're talking about carpet, they do sell it by the square yard. The quick conversion is 1 yard is 9 square feet. So whatever it is they're selling you, it's 9 square feet. That's how you break it down for the square feet, just divide it by 9. So I'm getting ready to sneeze, but go ahead, Bill, and continue on with your thoughts.
Well, so paint's a big deal because it's just a large budget item. And windows, if you're replacing windows, then you're going to see that's a major expense. Yeah, you've got 5 or 6 expenses that are big, and then everything else can be fairly minor, depending on what you're doing to the property. So I also want to look at, and I'm going to tell you some things that you can do. Yeah, I've done this multiple times. It's easy to do. You can't do this at Home Depot, but you can do this at Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, any commercial paint house that's a freestanding paint company. You can go in and find out if they have, we call it OOPS internally, but what OOPS paint is just like they'll have maybe somebody that is painting apartments, and they'll order 150 gallons, 5-gallon buckets of a particular color. And then what in their order process, it's if they end up with 30 gallons too much, typically these companies will let them bring it back because they do so much business together. And then they will turn around and they will put those like right in the middle of the store, and they sell them incredibly cheap. They'll sell them at 20% off, 20% of what they were costing you. So 20 cents on the dollar. 15 cents on the dollar, quarter on the dollar of what they were selling and what that commercial person was paying for it. So we'll take that anytime we can find anything that's white. We take any shade of white, and I really don't like to do beige because tans are now out of the color palette for Texas and most of the country, and everything is that, we call it ghost gray. It's a very, very light gray. But anything in the white family I can buy a 5-gallon can of white paint and put in a half a gallon or a quart of a medium gray. And when you mix it together, you've got ghost gray. And that can cut your materials cost way down. So I'm always looking at, can I do that? Can I buy appliances that are scratch and dent? And what I'm looking for is, like, if I'm buying a range, I'm looking at is the dent or the scratch on the side of it, so that when it's placed in the cabinet, it's not going to show. If it doesn't show, don't care. And I can save $150 on a range just because it's got a dent in the side of it or a big scratch in the side of it, that the only people that are going to see that are the installers. Because once it's in that cabinet space, and it's a brand new appliance, as long as the functionality isn't changed or hampered in any way, then, I want to buy scratch and dent and, again, save a little money. If you've got a storage facility, whether it's a separate facility or you just happen to have some place and you can store some stuff, especially in times like these, when you find things that you can buy, bought and that Farmer's Branch house that we mentioned. One of the things that I loved about it was the previous owner had died in it. That's not what I loved about it. But the family said, can we just leave all the stuff and you deal with it? And I said, yeah, but that changes the price of the property, because now I've got additional cost on there. So they knocked $5,000 off, and they just said, we just agreed $5,000 for me to clean the house out, which is way more than it would cost, but it was what worked for them. Now, what made it work for me was a guy had a ton of supplies in the garage that he was planning on doing. He had all new plumbing fixtures, and he had a whole bunch of wood. Well, now that we got into crazy time, it was like, holy cow, got new baseboards for the entire house that I don't have to buy. They were there. They just he had not put them in yet. So, that saves me a chunk. But the reason I'm saying that is that from time to time, you're going to have an opportunity to buy something, and you're going to buy it in bulk. And if you have a place to store it, you want to take advantage of that. I bought out a lighting company some years ago. They were going out of business. They had been doing their going out of business sale for about 2 months. Got down to they needed now to vacate the building. And I happened to be started talking to the owner, and I made him an offer, which was a stupid low, offered him $3,000. I said, my dad taught me that. Make a stupid offer. You can always go up. You can't go down. So I looked around and I said, you know what? I'll give you $3,000 for everything that's in here. And he said, I don't know. And his wife was like, take it. We're done. Let's get out of here. And he said, hey, you got to get all this stuff out of here. You got 3 days to get it out, because that's when I have to turn the keys back over. And then he would have a penalty from the landlord if it wasn't cleaned out. So I went, done. Great. He went, done. Great. After his wife nagged on him a little bit. And, I don't know, I had 75 ceiling fans in there. So the ceiling fans alone ended up paying for the rest of the lights. And I ended up selling a bunch of them on eBay at one time. But I used those lights for several years. We had an opportunity to buy HVAC units from the Fort Worth Independent School District through one of my contractors that were a year old. And they had come back and decided that the units were too small for what they had allocated, and there were 200 of them. Now, I was only able to buy 30 of them because the contractor wouldn't let me buy them all. He bought them all, but he sold me 30 of them. And I got 33-ton units for $200 a piece. And I was like, you betcha. I'll take as many as you'll let me have. So from time to time, when you're paying attention and when you're out talking to everybody that you know knows you're a real estate investor, something like this comes up. Yeah, if you've ever been to one of my events, then we start talking about rehab. You've heard me talk about buying crown molding, where I bought about 3/4 of a tractor trailer load from Home Depot because they were changing vendors and had been told to have all this stuff gone by this date for the new vendor to come in. And it got down to, they were a few days away from that date being there. And I just happened to be there talking to the department manager. And he said, hey, dime a foot. Now, this was a few years ago. He said, if you take it all, dime a foot. It didn't matter if it was paint grade, stain grade, Mylar, whatever, dime a foot. I'm like, done. And it turned out it was like $7,000, $8,000. And I used that on hundreds of houses.
Everything.
Why do you put crown molding and everything? Well, one reason is because I had it and I could, and I still do because it's an incredibly cheap thing to do for perceived value. All right. So,
and I can tell you from my days as in the contracting business, get to know the people in the pro services. Okay. There's a pro services manager. There's actually a couple of different pro services manager. And then they have like sub managers for each of the different areas. Get to know those people, talk to them, spend some time with them. Most places, Home Depot, Lowe's, they actually have coffee that you can get if you're a pro, and it's free. Pick up some coffee. A lot of times they'll have donuts or something else first thing in the morning. A lot of times I would take donuts in like in the afternoon because I knew they were out of donuts. And that was something that they noticed. It cost me $6 or $7 to get a dozen donuts. Okay. They have coffee all day long though, because it's what they do. A lot of times they'll actually have cold water. There was a Home Depot that we used to use all the time. They actually had Gatorade for the pros. Now the Gatorade didn't cost you anything. Yeah. Get to know them because they want to do business with you, first of all. And when something is coming up, they'll let you know. Millworks is what Bill was talking about for all of your lumber, as far as your baseboards, your crown moldings, trim, everything else. That's all Millworks. That's all under the pro department. Get to know those people, and then when something is happening, they will let you know because they consider you a friend or an acquaintance, and that's what you want to have. Relationships are amazing, and whether or not you need that, being able to pass that on to somebody that you know who might will also get you some bonus points with that person. And you're helping them out because they need to, as Bill said, they need to get rid of it. They needed to blow all of that out. Okay. Even though they were taking a loss on it, they still didn't have a place to put it. They still didn't want to keep it. They still don't want to deal with the paperwork. Bill did them a favor and he did himself a favor. And if he was able to get rid of it to anybody else, he did them a favor as well. Now we're going long on every single one of these segments. So we're going to take a break and we'll see you in a minute. My name's Kevin Mills. I have a real estate training program that is so powerful, I will back it up with a double your money back guarantee that it will make you a millionaire. That's right. Double your money back guarantee that you will be a millionaire if you use what you learn in the Millionaire Blueprint. I call it the Guaranteed Millionaire Blueprint. And you can read more about it and watch more videos at guaranteedmillionaireblueprint.com. That's guaranteedmillionaireblueprint.com. Check it out. All the information is there. 11 months out of the year, Bill and I host real estate buyers events in cities like Cleveland, Ohio, where we ourselves invest and see great returns. We show investors the types of strategies we're using, the types of properties we're using. We introduce them to people here on the ground and the resources that they can use to get started right away. Day 4 of this event, we're actually touring properties and making offers on properties. This event was designed to put properties in your portfolio right away, high-performing properties. Read more about the Real Estate Buyers event. Get registered. We'll see you at the next event, realestatebuyersevent.com. And one of the things that Bill had mentioned was appliances, scratch and dent. Let's talk about kitchens, because if you're doing a rehab, you need to focus on the kitchen. Kitchens and bathrooms are big, okay?
Yeah.
Focus on your kitchen because that is the focal point for most people for every single property. So let's talk about a couple of shortcuts for the kitchen. We talked about scratch and dents. Let's talk about refacing cabinets. I just mentioned if you're trying to get cabinets in at all, if you're trying to have somebody make cabinets or you're trying to get off the shelf that you're going to be able to fit into what you have already, it's going to take you a lot of time. It's going to cost you a lot of extra money. So let's talk about refacing options. What do you like to do? Do you like to reface, Bill?
Yes, because I hate replacing cabinets. And before shortages ever came up, I hated replacing cabinets because you can sink so much money into cabinetry. And I buy a lot of houses that are 40s, 50s, 60s, where they have old cabinets, but they're very solid cabinets. They're typically oak. And, they just don't look that great. But once you take the doors off and have a cabinet maker come in and redoor them or reface them, then you're looking at, wow, they look brand new. So I'm always trying to do that because that's an area where you can save yourself a ton of money. Now, you may still be able to do this right now. I did this last week, and thank you, Lord, that worked out fine. If you know cabinet supply manufacturer in your city, so I guarantee you Kevin's got them. We got several here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You can go in. Most of them have kind of I hear it referred to as the boneyard. They have an area where they've closed out cabinets, where they've made some overruns, where they've just got some stuff that is not part of their regular inventory, and they sell it at an incredibly cheap price just to get it out of their warehouse. It's usually in a separate area of the warehouse, and for them, it's almost throwaway stuff. And yet they'll sell it, and they'll sell it for a significantly cheaper amount. And that's where I always shop for cabinets first. I always want to look at what do you have that's closed out, discontinued. And then when I'm doing that, I can go in. If I don't have quite enough, then I can buy the rest of the cabinets from them. That may have a different door. That's where I go back and call my handy guy cabinet maker. That's a local one-off guy that's making cabinet sets 1 and 2 and 3 at a time to redoor to match the existing doors. And again, you can cut your cabinet costing in half and have a great looking product. Now, if you're just doing doors, you're going to save yourself about 70% of what it would cost you to go in and put brand new cabinets in. And, when you look at a door and hardware, that's what everybody sees. As long as the rest of the cabinet is solid, you're in good shape. They may need to be sanded down if they're old, got 1,900 coats of paint on them, like many that I have bought have. But yeah, cabinetry is a great way to do that. And I was going to make a tag on to Kevin's comment about the commercial folks at Lowe's and Home Depot. I always go in the commercial door. I don't go in the front door. I want those people seeing me on a regular basis. And look, if you're not friendly, get over it. Get friendly. Walk in, say, hey, what's that? How's everybody doing today? Just acknowledge them. And when I'm doing a particular property, if I go by and check, because I still go by, I don't do any work really, and I do no rehab work, but I do go by and check on my properties. And a lot of times I'll be the guy that runs to Home Depot. If I've got contractors in the middle of something and I'm paying them $40 an hour, I'm not going to send that guy to Home Depot for an hour if I'm just standing around watching or just checking on them, see how they're doing. I'll run to Home Depot myself. But what that allows me to do is have that relationship. Well, you'll build relationships at a store that's close to a particular, you mentioned that Farmer's Branch house. There's a Home Depot at Josie and Forest Lane, which is, I don't know, a mile and a half away or something. They will, over the course of the next few weeks, see me several times. They've already seen me several times. And I always try to go in, I look for who the manager or assistant manager is. I want to be able to go in and acknowledge them. Then also, when I'm checking out, I'll also try to go to the same person because it just makes it easy. I may stand in line a little bit longer, but again, another relationship that makes it go a lot faster. So appliances are great, and everybody, again, if you're in a major city, you've got scratch and dent stores around here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's a local chain called Texas Appliance that they have 2 or 3 scratch or dent stores, and they're just a local company.
Yeah,
and,
I'm building those relationships now because we just moved here. But before I left, I knew their grandchildren. I knew their children. I would take my daughter in there when she was younger so that they, could see her and she knew who they were. I would take my truck because they would know my truck because they loaded the truck up so many times.
Yep.
They would literally tell the guys, "Hey, take this out to Kevin's truck." They wouldn't say it's the black Dodge Ram. They would say, "Take this out to Kevin's truck," and they knew which truck was mine. So have those types of relationships. They absolutely pay off. Another thing to keep in mind, Bill's talking about the farmer's branch. Closest to the property you're doing is great, but it's easy for Bill and for I. We know what we're going to need in the next few weeks. We can go to the Home Depot or the Lowe's that's close to us where we live because we're going to be in there more often, and it builds a better relationship. So if I know I'm going to need crown moldings for next week, I'll buy that from the Lowe's or the Home Depot that's closest to me and then just throw it in the truck. And the next time I happen to be at that project, take it out and let the guys take it out and put it up. So build those relationships. We were talking about kitchens, okay? And I wanted to point out, it is cheaper to have somebody go in there and put some stripper and sand the existing cabinets than to pay somebody to demo it all out, fix the walls behind it so that you can put new ones up, and then have new ones fitted. You either buy off the shelf and you have to put spacers in order to get it to fit, or you have to have somebody custom make it to fit. Then you have to install all of that. That labor, that cost of the cabinets, it is so much more affordable. If you can save those cabinets, okay, have somebody strip them, sand them, have new doors put on, it's quicker and it saves you so much more money, not just in material costs, but in labor. And it's going to save you a lot more time now because, like I said, things like cabinets are on back order right now. We got to kitchens. I know you wanted to talk about foreclosures. So since we are long on this section, let's go ahead and talk about foreclosures, and we'll continue on line items for next episode too.
And I was going to say, hey, you know what? Let's just wrap the line item thing up and call it done, because we've got a full segment on foreclosure just on one piece of news. And since this is not going to happen till the end of June, why don't we hold this to the next show?
Okay. Real quick, in summary, your big cost line items, your potential big cost line items: roof, foundation, kitchen, kind of in this order too. Kitchen, your bathrooms. A lot of times you have to redo bathrooms. Those can get expensive as well. And then flooring. Okay. After that, all the other stuff, paint, baseboards, things like that, they're line items, but they're not a big bulk of your budget. They're not going to affect your budget as much as any of those first 3 or 4 are going to. So pay a lot of attention to what you need for this property. Don't shortcut when you can, but don't do it at the cost of quality, and don't do it at the cost of appearance, because I promise you, somebody who's moving into that house, who's planning on living there, okay, they're not looking at, oh, well, he saved a couple of dollars doing this, that's good. He's like, I don't like the way it looks, Yeah. So don't make those shortcuts. Shortcut where you can, where it makes sense. Make sure you pay attention to what is going to be important for that particular property. Last thoughts, Bill?
That's it, man. I think we've got at least one more show on some of these rehab tips. And then certainly we'll probably have a couple of shows on the forthcoming out at the end of June, the forbearance forgiveness program, or the forbearance halting stops. And that forbearance is just a safer, sweeter word for foreclosure. It's a liberal word for foreclosure. So it's a nicer word. And so that doesn't happen until the end of June. So we've got some more shows that we could talk about what's going to be happening and how it affects you and I, and what we can do to be involved in these properties that are coming onto the market. And there may not be quite as many as you think there's going to be.
Yeah, but it affects everything across the board, not just the foreclosures. And real quick, just not really related to what we were talking about, but related to what we're talking. As I mentioned, I used to have a construction company in California, and I used to love going by and hanging out and talking to the guys. I didn't swing a hammer all that much, but sometimes I did. It was a lot of fun. I missed that though, so much so that I had a conversation with my wife, and I've had a lot of buddies asking about those types of properties in this area. And I said, you know what? I want to go pick up some flips. I want to do some rehabs. I want to get out there and break out the tools and start cutting baseboards and everything else. I enjoy doing those things myself. So I am going to, and I told you this, Bill. This week, we are going to look at a couple of neighborhoods down in Miami that are right on the cusp of regentrification that have rehab flips. So I will make some videos while we're doing that, and I'll share them on later shows. But I am excited about finding some of these properties and getting back in there and redoing. A lot of these houses were built in the 1920s. They're Spanish-style houses, stucco. Looking forward to getting out there and doing stucco repairs and doing, lead and plaster repairs and just, I grew up doing those types of things. It was fun, and I still enjoy doing it. As long as I'm not under the clock and not under pressure or anything else, I won't be the only person doing it. I will have a crew out there as well. But I'm excited about it.
Very good.
And I will share that with you guys as we do that journey. Thank you for being with us. We will see you on Thursday.
Everybody.
See you Thursday as well, Bill.
You got it, brother.
Go have fun on the boat.
Yeah.